Welcome to Nolan Financial Radio. You're listening to me, Chris McKinney, with Nolan Financial Partners. I'm your host, and today we're going a little long. It's going to be a full hour. So this first half hour is going to be about things that every person with a retirement account, a savings plan, or a financial advisor should be thinking about right now. Is the advice you're taking to manage those things, keeping up with the times? Because here's the thing, financial planning isn't what it was 5 years ago. It isn't even what it was last year. In 2026, the entire industry is being reshaped by forces that most people haven't fully caught up with yet. Artificial intelligence, climate conscious investing, a massive generational wealth transfer, new fee structures, new regulations, and a talent shortage that's quietly creating real risk for advisors and their clients alike. So today's episode draws from a deep dive report by the Human Interest Team titled The Most Influential Financial Planning Trends for Advisors in 2026. So it's kind of written for advisors, but it has lots of effects on clients. We're going to walk through all 6 of the major trends they've identified, what they mean and why they matter, and what you or your advisor should actually be doing about them. Whether you're a financial professional yourself or just someone trying to make sure your money is in good hands, this one's for you. Let's get into it. So, all right. Trend number 1. And I want to make sure we started here because I think this is the one that surprises most people, even people that work in finance. Artificial intelligence is no longer some distant future concept in financial planning. It's here. It is being used, and the advisors who are embracing it are probably going to do a better job of keeping up with what's going on in the world than the ones that don't. So here's the headline stat from the Human Interest Report. AI tools can save advisors between 20 and 30% of their weekly workload. Think about what that means. Nearly a third of everything an advisor does in a given week, categorizing transactions, sharing compliance reports, sending account review reminders, scanning documents, analyzing portfolio trends. A chunk of that can now be automated. So when I say automated, I don't mean replaced by a robot that doesn't care about you. I mean freed up. When an advisor isn't buried in paperwork, they have more time to actually sit with you, understand your goals, and give you advice that fits your life. But the bigger shift isn't just about saving time, it's about the quality of advice itself. Traditional financial planning software works from static inputs. You put in your income, your expenses, your goals, and the software runs its model. That's fine. But it's a snapshot. It's a photograph of your finances on one particular day. AI is more like a video. It's constantly updating. If the market shifts, if your cash flow changes, if a new regulation gets passed, AI systems can adjust recommendations in real time rather than waiting for the next quarter review. Now, for us, it would probably be just recommendations, right? So it doesn't just go out there and act on its own. We're not there yet, but it can help get us into, oh, this may be something you need to look at. So that's kind of how we're starting to use it. So here's what really got my attention from the report. Statistics, 85% of advisors now describe generative AI as a benefit to their practice. That's not a fringe opinion. That's a consensus. So 66% say they're already seeing tangible improvements in their work. So what does this mean for you as a client? Start asking questions. Ask your advisor, using AI tools. How are they helping you serve me better? What's changing in your practice? Because advisors can answer these questions clearly. Those are the ones building toward the future. Now, I still believe in person-to-person contact, looking somebody in the eye and talking to them so that I can be held accountable for what they're doing. So quick break here. You know that all of the rule changes that come down, all these new things that are happening in the finance world, all the trends that we have, that's where the team at Nolan Financial Partners comes in, helping keeping you current and knowledgeable about what's going on. And if you don't want to be knowledgeable, we'll just take care of it for you. We're offering complimentary, no charge meeting, completely free, no pressure, where we sit down with you, look at your complete financial picture, and make sure your plan reflects what actually is happening in 2026. Call us today at 719-210-4242, and that's 719-210-4242 to schedule your complimentary meeting. Visit us online at nolanfinancialpartners.com. That's nolanfinancialpartners.com. We'd love to meet you. Now back to the show. Okay, trend number 2. Let's talk about something that even the phrase itself can be polarizing: ESG investing. Okay, so ESG investing stands for environmental, social, and governance. And the idea is straightforward. When you invest, instead of just looking at a company's earnings or growth potential, you also consider, how does this company treat the environment? How does it treat its workers and community? How's it run at the leadership level? Now, some people hear ESG immediately get their back up. They think it's political. They think it means sacrificing returns for feel-good purposes. And look, I get it. That's fair concern to raise. But here's what the data is actually showing. Global ESG assets surpassed $30 trillion in 2022 and are on track to hit $40 trillion by 2030. That's not a niche movement. That's one of the largest capital flows in the history of investing. And Morningstar, which is about as mainstream as you can get, reported that over half of sustainable funds outperformed their traditional counterparts in 2023. So ESG, is it a real thing? Yeah, it clearly is. The question is it right for you? And that depends on your values, your timeline, and your risk tolerance. What's interesting is how the appetite for ESG breaks down generationally. The Human Interest Report notes that more than half of investors under 40 now expect ESG to be a part of every portfolio conversation, not just an optional add-on, a baseline expectation. Whereas older clients, those over 55, tend to assess ESG case by case. There are actually several different ways advisors can incorporate ESG. You can use exclusionary screening, which just means removing certain industries like tobacco or weapons from your portfolio. You can use positive screening, which means favoring the top performers on ESG metrics. You can do thematic investing, like focusing on clean energy. Or you can do full ESG integration, where environmental and social factors are just woven into every investment decision. The point is, ESG isn't just one thing, it's a spectrum. And a good advisor should be able to walk you through options and help you find where you land on that spectrum. If yours hasn't brought this up, consider bringing it up yourself. So, trend number 3, all right, brings us to something that financial experts are calling, without any exaggeration here, the greatest wealth transfer in human history. $84 trillion. That is the estimated amount of wealth that is going to move from baby boomers to younger generations over the coming decades. Let's sit on that for a second. $84 trillion. That's not, that's a big number. So, okay, this transfer is already underway. It's completely reshaping who is receiving financial advice and, critically, how they want to receive it. Here's a challenge. So for us in the financial industry, right? Baby boomers and older Gen X clients are raised in a world of phone calls, handshakes, and in-person meetings. That's me. So that's how we build trust. That's the relationship model they know. Millennials and Gen Z, they're a different story. They've grown up with smartphones and instant messaging and on-demand access to everything. They want mobile-friendly onboarding. They want interactive dashboards where they can log in, not whenever they want to, midnight on a Tuesday, see exactly where their money stands. They want text-based support. They want short educational videos that explain financial concepts without drowning them in jargon. And here's the really interesting part. This isn't about the younger clients being less serious about their money. If anything, they're more engaged. They just engage differently. They want tools that work for across their device landscape, right? So they want it on their phone, they want it on their pad, they want it for their computer. So they want secure portals, real time messaging, digital document storage. They want to feel like their finances are accessible and intuitive as every other part of their digital life. So what does this mean for us advisors? It means that we just need to make sure that we can change with that, and we start getting that technology into our zeitgeist. It's not easy for maybe for everybody, but you have to speak the language of a 70-year-old and speak the language of a 32-year-old tech professional, sometimes within the same firm, right? So sometimes within the same family. So the report specifically calls out things like mobile friendly onboarding, visual data summaries, and text based support as ways advisors are starting to bridge this gap. And for clients, if your advisor doesn't offer a client portal, doesn't have a mobile app, and still relies entirely on paper statements, that's a sign of a firm that may not be set up to serve the next generation of family's wealth. So here's a quick break. You know, these are actually a lot of changes that we need to look at. This is where Nolan Financial Partners is keeping up with the times. We're offering a complimentary, no charge meeting, completely free, no pressure, where we sit down with you, look at your complete financial picture, and make sure your plan reflects what's actually happening in 2026. Call us today at 719-210-4242. That's 719-210-4242 to schedule your complimentary meeting. And visit us online at nolanfinancialpartners.com. That's nolanfinancialpartners.com. We'd love to meet you now. Back to the show. Okay. So trend number 4. And I'll be honest with you, this is one that affects every single person in the financial industry. Fees. So if you're working with a financial advisor, you're paying fees. They don't do the work for free. They need to get paid. They do work. For a long time, the industry had a bit of a opacity problem when it came to fees. So the standard model was called assets under management, where an advisor changes a percentage of whatever they're managing for you. 1% per year is typical. On a $500,000 portfolio, that's $5,000 a year. On $1 million, that's $10,000 a year. So now that the AUM model isn't it's not a bad model, right? It's not inherently bad. But when your advisor does well, they do well too. So interest are aligns. So if you're making more, your portfolio is growing, then they're getting paid better. So that's good. But here's this thing, it's not often easy to find what you're paying on those fees in the past. It's just being quietly deducted. Many clients have no idea what they're actually paying. Now, if you get a quarterly statement from us, it details that what your assets are under management have performed over the last quarter, and it shows exactly what we got paid right there in the list of all the other things. So you know exactly how you're paying us, and that we built the business that way. So because we want to be transparent with our clients. So that has started to change to more like we're doing. Approximately 75% of advisors are now using a fee-based models, and over 60% of firms have updated their pricing structures in the past year for greater transparency. We've had that since we started our business back in 2010. So it's just how we've always done it. So that's a big change. So you're going to see more and more of those fees, and you have an understanding of getting them. So if you're moving from a 401k to a financial advisor area, a lot of the fees are pretty hard to find in the 401k world, but it's pretty easy once you have a personal financial advisor to see what you're paying in fees. and they will tell you what they're what they're charging you in fees. Now, one of the new models that's starting to emerge is flat fees, where you pay a fixed amount for a defined set of services, maybe $2,000 a year for a comprehensive financial plan. Subscription based, you pay monthly fee, like $150 a month for ongoing access to your advisor. Hourly, you pay for a specific time and advice you need, anywhere from $150 to $400 an hour. So, why is this happening now? Because younger clients are asking the big questions, right? That their parents didn't. They're comparison shopping. They're going online and looking at what other firms charge. They're demanding to know exactly what they're paying for and why. And honestly, that's healthy. So that's how every market is supposed to work. We have a capitalist society, and people should be able to comparison shop based on fees. So the report makes an interesting point that transparent fee models don't just help clients budget, they build trust. So when you know exactly what you're paying and what you're getting, the relationship with the advisor shifts. It becomes more transactional and more collaborative. So my advice to you today is if you have a financial advisor, make sure you know to the dollar what you're paying them. Not just a percentage in terms, the actual dollars every year. And if they can or won't tell you clearly, that's a problem that you should take seriously. Okay. So, trend number 5, we're going to talk about regulation. I know it's not the sexiest topic, but stick with me because this one has real teeth and it affects you more directly than you might think. The financial advising industry is one of the most heavily regulated in the world. And in 2026, it's seen another wave of significant updates. The SEC and the Department of Labor have both issued new guidance on fee disclosures and conflicts of interest. And the underlying concept at the center of it all is something called fiduciary duty. A fiduciary is someone who is legally required to act in your best interest, not the firm's best interest, not the interest of the fund they're recommending, yours. And updates to fiduciary standards are clarifying and expanding when that obligation applies. So this matters not to all financial advisors because they're not all held to a fiduciary standard. Some operate on what's called a suitability standard. And you should know that if your advisor is a fiduciary or a suitability. So the suitability is the advice that they give must be suitable for your situation, not necessarily optimal. That's a meaningful distinction. Suitable and best are not the same word. We're fiduciary here at Nolan Financial Partners. We've been fiduciary since we started the firm back in 2010. So it's kind of how we started. That's how we want to play. On the top of the fiduciary updates, data privacy laws have also expanded significantly. So we have to be very careful with our clients' data. Advisors are required to have strict protocols, stronger encryption, and clear data retention policies. Your financial life contains some of the most sensitive personal information imaginable. Your income, your debts, your family situation, your assets, that's all in your financial data. So firms are being held to a higher standard around protecting all of that. So here's the thing about the a kind of a complication, right? So AI. So is AI going to be able to look at your data? Well, probably, maybe. It kind of depends on the firm, but it's an interesting regulatory question that nobody has fully answered. So if an algorithm recommends an investment and the recommendations turn out to be wrong, who's responsible? The advisor, the software company, the firm, regulators who are actively wrestling with this, and it's going to shape how AI is deployed in financial over the next few years. So we're keeping a close eye on that for our clients. We still have people involved. AI might give some recommendations here and there, but right now it's still human people making decisions. So for you as a consumer, the practical takeaway is this: ask your advisor if they are fiduciary or if they're held to a suitability standard. Just know what their standard for you is, right? Ask them how they handle their data. How do they protect your data? Do they use AI tools that have access to your personal identifiable information. Are you entitled to clear answers for all these three things? Yes, you certainly are. And advisors who are ahead of the regulatory curve will be able to answer them confidently. Okay. So we use AES 256 encryption for all of our data. So I can answer that question easily. All right. So trend number 6. This is the one I think gets the least attention in the financial media, but is quietly one of the most consequential. The financial industry has a talent problem, a serious one. According to the Human Interest Report, over 30% of the financial advisors are expected to retire in the next decade. 1 in 3. And that number shows that we're going to get new financial planners entering the profession, but at what pace? And right now, that's not keeping pace with the departures. So it's a gap between advisors leaving and new ones coming in. It's creating a real operational risk for some of the bigger firms. We're a small firm, so it's not a risk for us. Think about what that means in real practice. So if you're going to a big company, their experienced advisor retires and they're just kind of walking out the door. They're taking all those years of client relationship, institutional knowledge, and context. It's really difficult to transfer to a new advisor. So, how's that going to affect the firm's performance? So, succession planning is also something that needs to be thought about. The process of preparing the next generation of advisors to take over is something that a lot of firms have talked about, but not actually done well. Now, here at Northern Financial Partners, we have a succession plan, and the advisors that would take over our accounts if we got a car wreck tomorrow have a similar philosophy to ours. They use some of the same software we do. Well, they use all the same software we do, actually. And so that helps that if we're gone, they understand what we've done with our clients. They can look into our documentation and be familiar with it. So we have a succession plan for that. So if your firm doesn't have a clear succession plan, clients can end up in very uncomfortable situations. You can be orphaned out there. A long-time advisor retires, the firm scrambles, and you get handed off to someone new who doesn't know your history, your goals, your family situation. That's not great. So technology is part of the answer here. When routine tasks are automated, when AI handles the compliance reports, scheduling the data entry, one advisor can effectively serve more clients at a higher level of quality. The report refers to this as scalability, and it's a real lever that firms can pull. So here's another piece I think it could be really important. It's culture, right? What's the culture of the firm? The report points out that culture is a major driver of whether those advisors stay at a firm or they want to leave. They want clear communication. They want recognition. They want flexible work arrangements. They want collaboration opportunities, work-life balance. So these are not really soft perks. These are kind of mandatory perks in today's environment for new employees. So they're retention tools. And in the industry that's starting to get short on talent, losing good people is something that firms really can't afford. So for you as a client, here's what I'd encourage you to do. Ask your advisor about their firm succession plan. It might feel like a weird question. It's not. It's actually one of the most important questions you can ask about the long-term health of your financial relationship. What happens when you're not here? Who takes over if you retire? What happens? What's that transaction going to look like? A firm with a real answer is a firm with a real plan, right? So we have a real answer and we have a real plan, and it will take a few pieces of documents signing to get everything moved over, and then you're up and running with somebody who has an understanding of where you are at with your situation. All right. So that's 6 trends. So let's bring it all together. Okay. So we talked about AI and how advisors using it aren't replacing the human relationship. They're deepening it. By automating the routine things, they create space for better conversations that actually matter. I spend a lot of time in back office. I actually reserve 2 days a week for back office stuff. So if I can reduce that, then I can spend more time with clients and thinking about uh, what their issues are. So we also talked about ESG, how values aligned investing has moved from the margins to the mainstream. Whether or not you're personally drawn to it, it's worth understanding what it is and where you stand. We talked about the great wealth transfer, $84 trillion moving between generations, and how that's forcing the industry to rethink everything from communication styles to digital tools. We talked about fee transparency. That's a big one for me. Uh, Knowing exactly what you're paying. Your advisor, it's just not nice to have. It's a foundational piece of how we created our business. And so creates a healthy financial relationship between an advisor and their clients. So we talked about regulation, fiduciary standard, data privacy, and the fascinating new questions that AI raises for compliance. And then we talked about the talent shortage, the quiet crisis that's making succession planning one of the most important and underappreciated conversations in the financial industry today. Here's the through line through all six of these trends. Financial planning is becoming more personalized, more transparent, and more technology driven. The firms that replace all three of those qualities and the clients who demand them, or excuse me, not replace, embrace all three of those qualities. And the clients who demand them are going to be in a much stronger position than those who don't. So the Human Interest Report put it pretty simply: the trends reshaping financial advice uh, in 2026 are interconnected, and the firms that adapt quickly will be competitive. I think that's right. And I'd add that so will clients, and they're going to like it. You're going to stay more informed. It's going to be easier for them. So before I let you go today, I want to give you one action step, just one. I think this covers more ground than any other single thing you can do right now. It's tax time right now. So sit down and look at your projected income for 2026, not just your paycheck or your portfolio returns, your taxable income. What will you actually report to the IRS this year? How does that number interact with each of the things we've talked about today? So make sure that you're maximizing your 401k, taking care of those kind of things. What if that money moves out of your spending budget into your saving budget? How does that affect you? So these are good questions to have, but know what you're going to make this year. At least have a good estimate, right? So right now we're offering a complimentary no charge meeting, completely free, no sales pressure, no obligation, just a real substantive conversation about your money and your future with our team. So if any part of today's episode made you think I need to visit my plan, please act on that instinct. Call us at 719-210-4242. That's 719-210-4242, or visit us online at nolanfinancialpartners.com. I'm Chris. Thank you for listening to Nolan Financial Radio, the show that believes your best financial years are ahead of you as long as you keep making smart, informed decisions. Stay sharp, and we'll see you next time.